US President Donald Trump has sent a strong and unusually blunt message to Iraq, making it clear that Washington will not support the country if it once again chooses Nouri al-Maliki as Prime Minister. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said Iraq's past under Maliki should serve as a warning, arguing that the country slipped into chaos and deep instability during his previous time in office. Trump wrote that such a situation should not be allowed to repeat itself, signaling that American backing would be off the table if Maliki returns to power. The statement comes after Iraq's powerful Shiite political alliance, known as the Coordination Framework, announced last week that it had chosen Maliki as its nominee for Prime Minister. The alliance holds a majority in Iraq's parliament and defended its decision by pointing to Maliki's political and administrative experience as well as his past role in running the state. Maliki served two terms as Prime Minister between 2006 and 2014, a period remembered for intense sectarian violence, strained relations with Sunni and Kurdish factions, and growing tensions with the United States. Iraq today faces a very different but equally complex set of challenges. Any new government will have to deal with dozens of armed groups that operate across the country, many of which are closer to Iran than to Baghdad, and often answer more to their own commanders than to the state. At the same time, Washington has been increasing pressure on Iraq to rein in or dismantle these militias, adding to the political tightrope the next Prime Minister will have to walk. Trump's warning to Iraq was followed by equally sharp remarks on Iran. Speaking at an event on Tuesday, the US President said another American Armada was moving toward Iran, using dramatic language to underline Washington's military posture in the region. Trump said he hoped Tehran would choose to make a deal with the United States, suggesting that diplomacy was still possible even as military assets were being deployed. Iran, however, was quick to push back against any suggestion that talks were underway. Foreign Minister Abbas Araqchi said there had been no recent contact with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and that Iran had not requested negotiations. Speaking to reporters, Araqchi made it clear that Tehran was not approaching Washington directly, even as tensions remain high. The United States has already deployed additional military assets in the Gulf in recent months, following widespread protests inside Iran that led to the bloodiest crackdown since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. These deployments have heightened fears of miscalculation or escalation, even as both sides publicly talk about avoiding war. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian struck a more conciliatory note during a conversation with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Pezeshkian said Tehran would welcome any process within the framework of international law that helps prevent war. Araqchi also confirmed that Iran remains in contact with mediating countries, suggesting that indirect diplomacy is still very much alive. Taken together, Trump's remarks on Iraq and Iran highlight how tightly connected the region's political decisions have become. From Baghdad's choice of Prime Minister to military movements in the Gulf, every signal is being closely watched. As Washington turns up the pressure and regional players look for ways to avoid open conflict, the coming weeks could prove critical for the future balance of power in the Middle East.